What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Wrestling Decoded. And today we're pulling back the curtain on 5 championship reigns that weren't supposed to exist. Not in the shocking upset sense that WWE's commentary team loves to sell, but in the very literal, documented sense that somebody else was originally booked to be standing there with that title, and something went sideways before that could happen. Every entry on this list has a real story behind it, a paper trail of changed plans, contract situations, real-life tragedies, and fan movements too loud to ignore. So let's go through them one at a time, because the story behind each title reign is honestly more interesting than the reign itself. Let's get into it. If you enjoy these deep dives into the real decisions behind wrestling's biggest moments, that's exactly what this channel does. Go ahead and subscribe before we start. Number 5, Kofi Kingston, WrestleMania 35. The original creative plan for that WrestleMania season reportedly had Kevin Owens facing Daniel Bryan for the WWE Championship as the marquee match in that title picture. Kofi Kingston's name wasn't anywhere near that conversation when the year started. His actual path to the main event began almost by accident. Mustafa Ali suffered an injury that opened up a spot in the Elimination Chamber match, and Kingston ended up filling it. From that point forward, something genuinely unscripted started happening every single week on television. As Kingston kept getting presented with opportunities and having them pulled away, fans began rallying behind him in a sustained vocal way that the company hadn't planned for and reportedly wasn't initially sure what to do with. The movement became known as Kofi Mania, and it grew louder every single week until it became too significant for WWE to realistically ignore. By most accounts, Vince McMahon was genuinely hesitant about pulling the trigger on this direction, even as the fan reaction kept building. The detail that makes this story genuinely remarkable is that it reportedly took Daniel Bryan himself personally lobbying McMahon, making the case directly before the decision was finally made to change course entirely. Bryan convinced McMahon to give Kofi that spotlight, and Kingston went on to defeat Bryan at WrestleMania 35 in front of a crowd that had genuinely earned that moment emotionally over months of investment. His 11-year-old son rushed the ring in tears during the celebration. It's one of the most emotionally resonant championship wins in WrestleMania history, and it exists purely because an injury opened a door, a fan base refused to be ignored, and a future Hall of Famer made a personal plea to the chairman. Number 4, Eddie Guerrero, No Way Out 2004. This one isn't about fan pressure at all. It's about a contract situation that forced WWE's hand on a compressed timeline and accidentally produced one of the most beloved championship moments in the company's history. Brock Lesnar was the reigning WWE Champion, and the original plan had him carrying that title directly into WrestleMania 20, where he was set to defend against Goldberg in what the company was billing as a dream encounter. But Lesnar had already privately decided he was leaving WWE after WrestleMania to pursue a career in the NFL, and with that departure locked in as a certainty, the company needed to get the title off him and onto someone who'd actually be around to carry it forward. Eddie Guerrero got that call, defeating Lesnar for the title at No Way Out 2004, just 1 month before the WrestleMania the title was originally supposed to headline. The reaction in the arena that night is genuinely one of wrestling's most moving moments on record. Fans who'd followed Guerrero through his personal battles, his genuine struggles and comeback, erupted in a way that felt completely unmanufactured. What makes this entry so interesting in hindsight is that this wasn't a perfectly timed, lovingly crafted redemption story. It was a last-minute pivot forced entirely by a scheduling problem. And yet it's remembered as one of the most emotionally pure championship wins WWE has ever produced. Sometimes the backup plan ends up being the better story. Here's a question worth sitting with. How many of wrestling's most beloved championship moments do you think only exist because of a contract situation, an injury, or a backstage decision that fans never knew about at the time? Number 3, Rey Mysterio, 2006. This one carries a different kind of weight entirely because the circumstances that shaped it had nothing to do with business and everything to do with genuine grief. Eddie Guerrero passed away in November 2005, and Mysterio, one of his closest friends in real life, dedicated his Royal Rumble entrance to Guerrero's memory before the 2006 match. That dedication created a situation the company essentially couldn't walk back from. Anything short of Mysterio winning the Rumble would have felt tone deaf given the emotional stakes publicly attached to the moment. He won, and at WrestleMania 22, he defeated both Kurt Angle and Randy Orton in a triple threat match to become WWE Champion. According to reports from that period, the original plan had actually been to keep Mysterio out of the WrestleMania title match despite his Rumble victory. He got in anyway, partly because the circumstances made the alternative look unacceptably callous. What followed, though, is the part of the story that complicates the ending. Mysterio's title reign was repeatedly undercut in the months afterward, booked into non-title matches against significantly bigger opponents who made him look outmatched even as the belt stayed on his waist, a champion who rarely felt like the undisputed top of the card even while technically holding the company's biggest prize. The title win was genuinely earned. The reign itself never fully matched the weight of the moment that produced it. Number 2, Psycho Sid, 1997. This one traces all the way back to a broken promise. When Shawn Michaels defeated Bret Hart at WrestleMania 12 in 1996, the two had privately agreed the match would be returned in kind the following year, a rematch at WrestleMania 13. As that rematch approached, Michaels began citing knee problems and ultimately vacated the WWF Championship, telling the company famously that he'd lost his smile. Whatever the full truth behind that decision, the practical effect was immediate chaos. A scheduled number 1 contenders match had to be hastily reframed as an actual title match, and Bret Hart ended up winning it in genuinely solid fashion. The match delivered. The circumstances around it felt unresolved. And then, in one of the more jarring title changes of that era, Bret dropped the belt the very next night to Psycho Sid, a transitional reign that existed primarily because the original plan had collapsed entirely and nobody had a clean alternative ready. Sid became champion largely by being available, positioned nearby, and willing when the roadmap fell apart around him. Quick pause here. Drop a comment on which of these unplanned title reigns you think produced the best actual championship moment, because personally, I think Eddie Guerrero's story is the hardest argument to beat, but I want to hear your case for someone else on this list. And number 1, the most recent entry, and one with specific reported documentation behind it, Sami Zayn at Night of Champions 2026. According to reporting from Corey Hayes of False Finish, WWE's original creative plan was to have Zayn win his first world championship at WrestleMania 43, scheduled to take place in Saudi Arabia in 2027, giving the long-running story nearly another full year to develop before reaching its culmination on the industry's biggest annual stage. That was the plan. What changed it was the quality of Zayn's own ongoing character work over the preceding months, a genuinely compelling performance where he walked a difficult line between heel and sympathetic figure that resonated with audiences in ways that made waiting another year feel like leaving real money on the table. WWE moved the timeline up by nearly 12 months, inserting Zayn into a triple threat with Cody Rhodes and Gunther at Night of Champions and letting him pin Rhodes to win his first world championship. The reaction to that result, by most accounts, was substantial. And according to analysis done since, that accelerated timeline has actually opened up significantly more booking possibilities for WWE's main event picture than the more patient, WrestleMania-timed version of the story likely would have. So here's what connects all 5 of these across completely different eras and completely different circumstances. None of them happened because WWE sat down at a creative meeting and carefully plotted the perfect underdog journey from beginning to end. An injury opened a door for Kofi. A contract situation forced an early title change for Eddie. Real public grief shaped the emotional logic of Mysterio's path. A broken promise threw an entire WrestleMania season into chaos for Sid. And sustained, genuine in-ring excellence convinced WWE to move an entire storyline up by a full year for Zayn. The version of each story that fans remember as special was, in every single case, the company's contingency plan rather than the original one. Which of these 5 unplanned championship reigns do you think worked out the best for the performer involved? Let me know your ranking down in the comments. And if you want more of these deep dives into the real decisions behind wrestling's biggest moments, make sure you're subscribed to Wrestling Decoded. There's plenty more of this still to uncover.